What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Pack-A-Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. We have a rare victory Sunday. Packers win 32-18 over the LA Rams and advance to the NFC Championship. Obviously, incredibly exciting. Packers played a very strong game overall. Definitely had some hiccups along the way. There were a few nerve-wracking moments as the Rams cut the lead to 7 points. Green Bay had to punt, and things got a little bit tight for a minute, but Green Bay ultimately able to close things out and really leading almost wire to wire. I think they scored with about 8 minutes left in the first quarter and then, held the lead through the entirety of the game from there on out. So overall, a really solid performance from Green Bay. A variety of things that I want to break down from this one. And I don't know what other place to start than the offensive line, which is missing David Bakhtiari, to a lesser extent is missing Lane Taylor. There's been times where they've been missing Corey Linsley and Billy Turner and just about everyone else. Rick Wagner's missed some time, and it hasn't mattered. And it's been absolutely incredible to see how this offensive line has been able to come together and give the overall offense some credit, how they operate and really making things confusing for defenses, making it difficult to tee off. The blend of pass and run, which was, I think, actually completely 50-50 against the Rams, 50% run, 50% pass, which makes things incredibly difficult. But at some point, the offensive line has to be able to go out and execute. And without their ace, without David Bakhtiari at left tackle, and facing the number one defense in football, there's always going to be some trepidation as to how that's going to go. And they completely dominated in the trenches for 4 straight quarters. Not only, pass protection, but running the football, opening things up for really a 3-headed monster of A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones, and Jamal Williams. And then Aaron Rodgers barely touched on the day, no sacks. I think they credited the Rams with 1 hit of Aaron Rodgers on the day. But, what more do you possibly want? Everything in this game offensively, and really almost overall, was set up by the play of the Packers offensive line. The fact that they were able to run the ball with such effectiveness, give Aaron Jones a ton of credit for his 60-yard run and what he was able to do on that play, but how they were able to open things up and really continue to push the pile forward throughout the game, and then just the overall pass protection. And yes, there were some plays where Aaron Rodgers was able to get the ball out of his hands quickly, but there was a lot of other plays where Rodgers sat and bought time and had all the time that he needed to kind of survey the field and find targets. And again, missing David Bakhtiari, and to be able to do that is absolutely incredible. So kudos to, the entire offensive line, Adam Stenavich, Luke Butkus, along from the coordinators of the offensive line coaches. Corey Linsley, Elton Jenkins was phenomenal in that game. Lucas Patrick, I don't think ever quite gets the credit that he deserved. I thought he played well at first glance. And then the 2 players that I really want to talk about and give Brian Gutekunst just all the credit in the world, Rick Wagner and Billy Turner. Let's not mistake it. Billy Turner was the 4th of the signings a season ago, right? It was definitely Preston Zadarius and Adrian Amos that got the discussion. Then it was, they got Billy Turner too. He should be an okay guard. And then Rick Wagner, for the most part this season, an afterthought. Make no mistake about it, Rick Wagner is one of the low-key best signings of the entire 2020 free agency period. What he's been able to do to step in at right tackle and start there with the level of effectiveness, I think Zach Cruz posted he's allowed 1 sack all year, and that was in the game that he had to switch over and play left tackle, and the sack that he allowed was at left tackle, not at right tackle. At right tackle, he's been near flawless. Brian Bulaga, one of the all-time great Packers, coming off a fantastic season a season ago for Green Bay, left town, got a huge deal with the Chargers. They bring in Rick Wagner, who was released by the Lions on a fairly friendly deal, doesn't even start, isn't scheduled to start the season. I think, really the only reason he started was because of the injury to Billy Turner. And then once Turner was back, Turner got to start at right tackle. Doesn't start for a period, comes in because of the injuries, and has been nothing short of phenomenal in his time so far starting at right tackle. What a huge sign. Billy Turner, we know, we've had the discussion before, right? Guard, tackle, left side, right side, it doesn't matter. He's been able to do all of it. And for a player who, especially towards the end of last season, partially due to injury, really struggled at right guard, to come in and play that well at left tackle in a playoff game is insane. And $13 million combined this season for those 2 players. I mean, 13 mil for a good start. You would easily pay 13 mil for a good to really good starting tackle in today's NFL. To get two starting caliber offensive linemen who can both play tackle and have the versatility that Billy Turner has for 13 million combined this season is beyond highway robbery. And then, oh, by the way, signing Lucas Patrick ahead of time before he broke out and basically one of the lower paid starting guards in football. Elton Jenkins, one of the best picks of Brian Gutekunst that he's made so far. I mean, give so much credit to him for how he's built up not only the starters along that offensive line, but the depth along the offensive line. And I've mentioned this before. How many times have we seen a Jason Spriggs, a Kyle Murphy, a Byron Bell, Don Barclay come in and just wreck games? Alex Light a season ago. Alex Light literally last season came in a couple games, and I specifically believe it was the 49ers game against Bosa and the Eagles game against Graham and Barnett, and they had no chance. He was terrible in those situations. I loved Alex Light. I thought he was a fun story and wrote about him quite a bit and talked about him quite a bit, but he came in and he was not able to hold up in those situations. Brian Gutekunst addressed that, found offensive line depth, and it's paid just massive dividends, and no bigger than in a massive game against the number one defense in the Rams, and the Packers go out and put up almost 500 yards of offense, 30-plus points, and really the Rams never stopped Green Bay. Green Bay only stopped Green Bay. So just an impressive performance from this offensive line. Next, I want to go over the defense. I tweeted this out. They are frustratingly effective and frustratingly good. It's the weirdest thing that I've ever seen. There's no two ways about it. When you are watching this defense, there are a multitude of times where it is frustrating to watch. Just the brand of football that they play at times. But you go over the course of these last couple months, and the results are ridiculous. They're really, really good. And this game is no different. You had one play over 20 yards allowed for the Packers defense in this game. 3 out of the 8 drives the Rams scored. The other 5 they didn't. They shut the Rams out in the fourth quarter. 2 of 9 on 3rd and 4th down. A lot of these stats from Zach Kruse, by the way. Appreciate you, Zach. Goff had 148 yards net passing. Robert Woods had 48 total yards receiving. Cam Akers had under 100 yards rushing. They had 18 total points. What one of those stats are you not super thrilled with? Like, all of it is a level of great. How about the 5 drives that didn't result in points? So we know that they scored 18 points on their 3 drives that scored, but how about the other 5 drives? 3 plays, 4 yards, punt. 3 plays, 0 yards, punt. 3 plays, -6 yards, punt. 7 plays, 25 yards, punt. 7 plays, 5 yards, turnover on downs. Those 5 total drives, 20 plays, 28 yards. Barely over a yard per play, 4 punts and a turnover on downs. Again, I say, what more do you want? Most playoff teams, I know the Bills and Ravens were maybe a little bit different in the nightcap, but most playoff teams are going to score at minimum 18 points in any given playoff game. I'm not sure what more you want out of the Packers defense. And I'm saying that, again, fully aware that those 3 drives that did score points are frustrating to watch. And this is what I do want to say is Green Bay has a philosophy, and I've talked about it before, and I'll say it again. Their goal is to make the other team beat them by death by 1,000 paper cuts. And it's really, really difficult to do. If you're not getting explosive plays on offense, if you're not getting big chunk plays, it is really hard to drive the length of the field over and over and over and over again and put together 5 or 6, 75 play touchdown drives. And if Green Bay is going to score 30 plus points on offense, I can understand why Green Bay's defense is trying to make it as difficult as possible to keep going on these 12 play 80-yard drive, 15 play 80-yard drives to score points. Because while the 3 drives that did score points were excruciating because they're 12 plays, 15 plays, 11 plays, points, the other 5 drives, the philosophy worked and it held. And that's the way that Green Bay is going to play. And again, I get the point that it doesn't feel great in the moment, but the result is at the end, especially over the course of these last 6 weeks, I think it's 5 of the last 6 weeks, the Packers defense has allowed under 20 points. 5 of the last 6. 3 of those were against playoff teams. They're doing well. They're doing exactly what you would want. And in a way, I know it's frustrating because those drives take time and the Packers offense has less opportunity, but you're limiting the overall drives in the game. And the Packers are so efficient. They're going to score. They scored on 6 of their 8 drives, I think it was, for Green Bay. The Rams only scored on 3 out of 8. I mean, it's really tough to win for the opposing team in those situations. And again, I know it's not the sexiest to watch at times. I know you'd like to see some more aggressiveness from Mike Pettin. I know you hate the off coverage, but in this game and over the course of the last month and a half, this philosophy has worked. Don't expect things to change. Expect this to continue to happen moving forward. All right, let's talk special teams really quick. Another pretty crappy day from the special teams. And on the surface, maybe it didn't seem all that bad and it didn't ultimately affect the game, but you had a missed extra point due to a poor snap by Hunter Bradley that ultimately injured Mason Crosby on the play. You had a 38-yard kick return. Tavon Austin completely misjudged a punt, and on probably at least one of those other punts had a line drive that it looked like he should have gotten more yardage on that he didn't. You had a kick return by Malik Taylor that cost the Packers 9 yards because he decided to take it out rather than just letting the ball hit in the end zone and get it at the 25-yard line. I think he got to like the 17 or 16 instead. There was a 9-yard loss. J.K. Scott had another really bad punt. You add those up, and those are all plays that have a cost throughout the course of a game. And it didn't affect the Packers' ultimate, whether they won or lost, but those are things that Green Bay is going to have to be cognizant of moving forward. And they gotta find a way to correct it, because those are the type of mistakes that can cost you in tougher games against Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Kansas City, Buffalo, Cleveland, whoever they play moving forward. All right, Kenny Clark, Jair Alexander, kudos to them for the game that they played. All the talk all week, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Kenny Clark and Jair Alexander outplayed those two in this game. And to be fair, Aaron Donald was a shell of himself. You could tell he was nowhere near 100%. Jalen Ramsey had to go against Devontae Adams, an opponent Green Bay offense, and Aaron Rodgers. Jair Alexander had to go against Robert Woods and Jared Goff. There's a level of difference there, right? But with all the talk of Ramsey and Donald, it's worth noting nonetheless that Kenny Clark and Jair Alexander outperformed both of them. Jair Alexander allowed 1 completion for -3 yards. Kenny Clark had a sack and a half and was dominant all day and is playing the best football of his season this last month. Kudos to both of those guys. Kudos to Rashawn Gary as well. I mean, you can just start seeing him come into his own. Some of the stuff that he did to Andrew Whitworth, I know Whitworth is a little bit, long in the tooth and a little bit older. He's been fantastic throughout all this season, and he's been a really damn good left tackle. Not many players can do what Rashawn Gary did on a couple of those plays to Andrew Whitworth, and you can just see the light bulb coming on. And towards the end of this game, when it was obvious passing situations for LA and they knew what was coming, you saw that Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith pressure package start to get home. Green Bay actually ended up with quite a bit of pressure in this game. I think it was actually their highest of the season per Next Gen Stats. That is a dangerous, dangerous formula for opposing teams having to come and play Green Bay. If they're having the success on offense and now getting that pass rush on defense, look the hell out. And Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Zadarius Smith, a huge part of that. I also wanted to quickly go over something that I think they learned from the Carolina Panthers game earlier this year. Carolina Panthers dared them to run the football. And in the first half, in that Panthers game, they did. And I think they were up like 21-3 at half. They dared the Packers to run the ball in the second half as well, and Green Bay didn't. And they passed, and they continued to be aggressive. And Green Bay put up 3 points in that second half, and they didn't stay patient. And I think Green Bay learned from that game. The Rams are a team that kind of dares you to run the football as well. They play more coverage than they play run defense, and they expect that their front, about 6 guys, are going to be able to get the job done without additional help. And for the most part this season, that's been the case. And again, they dare you to run the football. Green Bay out-physicaled the Rams throughout the course of this game, and they stuck with it was the important part. And I know those lessons at times are tough to learn in season, and that second half against the Panthers was ugly. Thankfully, they got out of that game with a win, even though they only scored 3 points in the second half against a pretty bad Panthers team. But that lesson was important to learn, and I think it really affected Green Bay and sticking with the run, especially with the way that the Rams were playing defense. They learned that lesson in Week 15, and it helped them out in this divisional round and helped get them to the championship game next weekend. Let's see. I think the only other thing that I wanted to go over is the Packers' advantage moving forward. They get to sit back and relax. They get to watch as the Bucks and the Tampa Bay Bucks and the New Orleans Saints hopefully beat the crap out of each other. They get an extra day of rest, which, again, I still can't believe that they don't have competitive balance with the NFC and the AFC playing on the same day, which is crazy. Both of these teams are Southern teams that are going to have to come into Northern environments. They're both going to have to travel. Green Bay is going to be better rested than both of these teams. Green Bay's had one game in that entire stretch from what the Week 17 game against Chicago, which seems like forever ago, up until the kickoff with Saints or Bucks. They've had one game in that time. That will the Saints and Bucks will have two really tough playoff games within the stretch of 8 days between last week and tomorrow's game. Then they'll obviously get some time off before that Packer game, but less than the Packers get. Green Bay has every advantage you could possibly want going into this game, including, of course, home field advantage. So it doesn't automatically equate to a win, but you got to love the fact that Green Bay has some of those baked in advantages and can now sit back and relax and, again, hopefully watch the Bucks and Saints beat the crap out of each other. Go to triple overtime. I think that'd be great. Have both of those teams play 95 snaps, but it's going to be a really fun NFC Championship game, whether it's Breeze or Brady. I don't have necessarily a preference. I think the Saints might be a little bit easier. I don't care about easy. I want the Packers to have this amazing journey as their Super Bowl champs. Go out and beat Brady and Mahomes. Let's freaking go. Let's do it. Hell of a ride. It's been super fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to check out Tyler and Gage on today's Pack a Day podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Jacked up, excited. I'll be back here tomorrow breaking things down again. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.